show you how to find help in Max. First of all, there are a lot of different ways that you can get help, some of which provide more or less detail. We will look at the ones which I think are most useful to you at this point. So let's start by making an object, one that I happen to know and which you will have used so far. So perhaps the quickest way of finding help is to look at the inlets and outlets for an object. So if you hover over any of the inlets and outlets, they will actually give you little pop-ups which show you what each of those inlets and outlets will either receive or output. So if I hover over the one on the left, it comes up with start stop metro, which basically means you need to send a message to that which will either start or stop it. What it doesn't tell you is what, in this instance, is exactly what kind of message it needs, but we can assume that it is a max message or a control message of some kind, probably a toggle, which would either be a 1 or a 0 value to say start or stop. The one on the right hand side says set the metronome time interval. Now this would likely be a number of some kind to tell it what interval we should be working with. And then if we hover over the bottom, then this one says it outputs the ticks of the metronome, in this case in bangs. So bang is a type of do it message that objects will output. So the hovering over the inlets and outlets will tell you one other thing which I haven't mentioned, is that it also tells you whether the inlets or outlets are hot or cold. I haven't said anything about hot and cold, and I won't in this video, but that's just for your knowledge. So red is a hot inlet, blue is a cold inlet, and yellow I guess is kind of neutral. So that's the first thing to show you. Inlets and outlets, hover over them to get some help on them. The other thing you can do is to press Option or on a Mac or Alt on a PC. Click on that, and this will open a new patch, which is a sort of reference patch to tell you what that object does. And there's various kind of parts to this. First of all, there's the main window where you will find instances of that object within little kind of subroutines that provide examples of how it can be used. So this is the simplest one for the metro on the top left here. And here, like I suggested, we need some kind of object to tell it to start or stop. So in this case, it's a toggle. And on the right-hand side, we need some kind of object that will tell it what intervals to be sending output at. So it's a number, and in this case, it would be time in milliseconds. And then from the output, we need something to display the ticks of that metro. So in this case, we've got a button, and when I lock the patch, actually already is locked, and switch that on, then we can see that it's outputting bangs every 500 milliseconds, which is every half a second. Then in the bottom right-hand side, you will find a little pithy description of what the object does. The only other thing to point out is what's up here on the right-hand side, which tells you certain things about what the object needs in order to function. So the argument tells it the interval, so we know that the interval here, which is 500, is 500 milliseconds. And then messages tells us what kind of messages that the object will receive in order to work. Attributes we haven't talked about yet, so we'll leave that for now. So there's two different ways of finding help, and there's a third, which is to find the reference manual for each individual object, but we'll leave that for now.